Hello, today we're going to do a new lesson for a new second half of the fourth unit. Today we're going to be talking about transformations, and there's only four types of transformations. There's translations, which we're going to learn today, rotations, dilations, and reflections. So our learning target has changed. We are now in SOL 7.8, which means given a polygon or a geometric figure that has straight sides on the coordinate plane, which we plotted points early on when we did functions. So we're taking geometry and adding it to plotting points. And we're going to represent those transformations. And again, the four types are reflections, dilations, rotations, and translations by graphing them on a coordinate plane. There are four types, like I said. The first type that we have is a reflection. And if you think about a reflection in a mirror, that is just simply going to flip the shape over the axis. So if you look in a mirror, you know that your reflection is opposite of what you actually are doing. So if you raise your right hand in the mirror, it looks like you're raising your left hand. So this is very similar. It's going to flip it over either the x-axis, which is horizontal, or the y-axis, which is vertical. The second one that we're learning about is a rotation. If you think about rotating, it's like a doorknob when you go and you turn it or rotate it around the origin. Remember, the origin is that middle dot in the very center of your coordinate plane. The next one is translations, which we're learning about today, and that is sliding or moving, simply just moving left or right, up and down. So the shape slides across the coordinate plane, or like an ice skater. And then the last one is dilation. If you've ever been to the eye doctor and they dilate your pupils, which makes them really big, or if you think about they dilate when you go out in the sun and your pupils get really, really small. So that's what dilation is. It either shrinks or grows by a scale factor. And we just talked about scale factor when we did our last unit, so this shouldn't be very difficult. Make sure you have these written down on your paper. I went through them quickly, so pause the video, make sure you have them written down because I will be checking in class. Okay, if you take out your notes on page 2, we're going to be talking about an overall definition of transformations. The definition of transformations is just simply moving a geometric figure and remember we talked about that that's on a coordinate plane. Which is basically that big grid that we use. The four types, which I've already said several times, are translations, which remember I said slide, so there's an SL in the middle to help you remember they slide. There's the rotations, which if you think of rotate, you see the word rotate in the middle of that word, so that helps you remember that it's rotating or turning. The reflection, which flips over the axis, and the dilation, which shrinks or grows. So, our first one that we're going to study is a translation. The translation, remember I said, is just when you are sliding, and you can remember it because we have this SL here and the SL here, sliding a figure into a new position without the figure being changed. So the figure itself is not going to change in any way, shape, or form. It's just sliding to a new position. So if you look on the left side of your paper, we're going to take some notes and then we're going to plot the example on the coordinate grid to your right. So the original shape that here is in blue, but it says in black on your paper, had the following points. So if we look, this is A, it didn't show up, and this is B, this is C, and this is D. So if we label those points A, Remember, you have to go on the x-axis first before you go on the y. So walk before you fly. We're going to go to -5, and then we're going to go up to 4. So its point was -5, 4. And B is at -1, 4. C is at -4, and then that's on the x-axis, so it's 0 up. And then D is -2, 0. And I just put a little reminder, remember to move left or right first, that's your x value, and then move up or down. So if you remember, left or right, and then up or down on your x and y. Now, when you're sliding, if your number is positive, then you're either going to move it up for the y, or you're going to move it right for the x. So if they give you a positive point, and sometimes they give it to you and say, okay, move +4 units, or they'll say move right 4 units. Sometimes they give it to you as a coordinate, an x, y coordinate, and ask you to move it. If your number that they give you is negative, then you're going to move either down, if it's your y, or left for your x. So that means, remember, all of your numbers on the left are negative, or down are negative, and then if you move right, they're positive, and up, they're positive. So if we take the figure that we're given up above, and it says we are asked to translate it 6, -5. Remember, this is your x, and this is your y. So if that's the case, then the 6 is positive, so that means I'm moving, if it's positive, I'm moving to the right for x. I'm going to move right 6 spaces, and then since the y is negative, I'm going to move down 5 spaces. So, and then once we move each point, we connect them and find the new coordinates, and I'll highlight it with a different color. And when we do that, we rename it using an apostrophe. And that is saying that our new one is called that letter, and we call it A prime. Sorry, that's supposed to be an M. So we would say, okay, A prime is the new point for A. So we're going to have A prime, B prime, C prime, and D prime. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite what we had before. We had a -5, 4 as our A, -1, 4 as our B. This is from up above. -4, 0, and then -2, 0. So if we go back, we're going to look at our shape. And remember, we're moving it +6, which is to the right, and then -5, which is down. So I'm going to change my color. I'm going to use a highlighter first to show you where we're going. So if I start with A, remember I have to move 6 units to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now I have to go down 5 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is my new point. That's going to be A prime. Remember, we renamed the point. Now, you can do two things. You can now draw your shape based on what you know. Like I could say A is 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes away from B. So I could count over 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and put B prime here, because I know that by looking at the original shape. Or you could physically count each one using, you know, a highlighter or whatever. So if I went over, same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then I knew my C prime is going to be down here. So your two choices are, you can move each individual point, or you can draw the shape based on what you know, based on looking at the original shape. So I like to do a combination just to double check to make sure I'm not making a mistake, because the biggest mistake you're going to make is if you miscount on your first point and you draw it off of that first point, then all of your other points are going to be off. So that's a simple translation. We took a shape, a geometric figure, this one was a trapezoid, and we slid it over 6 and down 5. We didn't change it, it's still a trapezoid. A is still 4 units from B, C is still 2 units from D, and C is 4 units down from A. So we didn't change the shape in any way, we just slid it to a new location, and that's what a translation is. It's very simple. If you look at another example, so we'll look at the one on the left, and then you guys are going to be doing the one on the right for your homework. So in this one, we have a triangle, so it's only 3. So the first thing we're going to do is identify the points. So where is A currently? We're going to go over to 4, and then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 5. So it's at -4, 5. Sorry, that's a negative. And then B is at negative, sorry, this is very blurry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, -6, +1. And C is at -2, +1. So now we have to find A prime, or where would it be when we translate it? And we're translating it a +3, which means to the right, and a -4, which means down 4. So let's do that. Let me grab my highlighter. I'm going to take first point A, I'm going to go over 3, 1, 2, 3, and then down 4. So I'm actually down there right next to C. Let me double check, I counted 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is my new A prime. And again, you have choices. You can draw your B and C off of that point if you're confident that's right, or you can move each one individually. So if I move each one individually, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, there is B prime, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. There would be my C prime. Another way that you could do it, and then all I have to do is write my new coordinates in. A prime is now at -1, 1. Sorry, it's off a little bit. B is at -3, -3. And C is at +1, -3. The other way you can do it is you can actually take the numbers. So if I had -4 and I added 3, then I would get -1. So if you think about it, -4 plus 3, that's where we got the translation, that's how far we're moving it, and I get -1. 5 plus a -4, and I get a +1. So the other way you can do it, if you didn't have a grid in front of you and you didn't know how to do it, you can also just simply add the numbers using your integer rules, and that'll give you your new locations. Okay, so on this one you're going to be doing for your homework, but it's simply taking that square, you're translating the object. This one's a little bit different because it's 4 units left and 2 units up. So it's not giving it to you as an order pair, it's giving it to you in the directions. So all you have to do is identify the original points on the graph and then the new points on the graph. On your SOL, most of the time what they're going to be doing is they're going to be asking you for a specific, like they won't ask you to translate the whole shape. They may say, where is point C or C prime? You know, and you just have to move that one point instead of moving the whole shape. All right, so our next practice, I'm going to do the first one, identify, they give you the first example here. These are your first points. I'm going to graph it for you, and then we'll do one of them together, and then you're going to do the rest for your homework, and then our notes will be finished. So the first thing we have to do is draw the shape. So we're going to go A is at +2, +3, which is here. That is point A. And go ahead and label it as you're doing it. 3, 4 is point B. 4, 3 is point C. And 3, 1 is point D. So then I'm going to connect those. So we have a quadrilateral. Looks like a kite. And now we have to translate it. And our first one says 4 units right. So that we're only moving it one time, just 4 units right. So let's take A and move it 4 units right. 1, 2, 3, 4. So A, use a different color so you can see. This is now A prime right there. And we're going to rewrite what the new point is. Remember what I said? You can take each one and add. So that means I'm moving over to right 4, but I'm not moving any on the Y. So I could take 2 and add 4, and I would get 6. And then the 3 stays the same because I didn't go up or down. And if you see my new point, that's where it is, 6, positive 3. So if you take your original and add the new, using your integer rules, add 4, 0 to each of these, then you would get the new points without having to graph it. But you can also graph them if you're more of a visual person. So if A is here, I know that B is directly diagonal from it. So there's B prime. C is down. And then I'm going to move over 1, 2, 3, 4 on D and then connect my shapes. So that one is my new one, and all I have to do is add in my points. So B was at 7, 4. C prime was at 8, 3, and D was at 7, 1. And if you notice on each of these, the X value, which is the first number in your ordered pair, went up by 4, but the Y value, which is your second number in the ordered pair, stayed the same because I didn't move up or down. So you're going to finish the rest of that chart for your homework. For your Edmodo quiz. So go ahead and do that, and then we will be doing the rest of the notes pages in class. So like I said, it's just an easy lesson where you're just sliding a figure. All you have to know how to do is count blocks.